Hey guys, happy December 2023. This is the last week of fall and it's going to be winter next week, and so it's a good time to make this Locality Boa Basics video about do I fast my boas in the winter. And so basically the idea of a fast is that people have a belief that boas should have an extended period of non-feeding in the coolest time of year. How long that is probably variable, and definitions probably change by person, but I'd say fasting starts probably at longer than a month for young boas, and I'm going to say starts at longer than like 2 months for sub-adult and adult boas, something like that. That would be my idea of a fast, something beyond what you're just doing for normal calorie intake. And the idea is that it's a natural cycle in their lives. It gives their gut and their body some time to adjust, and people believe that it is a healthier way that will extend the lives of your boas, and it will and then there's also a lot of seasonality to breeding and feeding, and I think that that's another motivation people do. And I guess what I will say is, should you fast your boas? The answer to that is the classic liberal arts college answer, which is it all depends on the individuals and circumstances involved. And I guess here's what I'll tell you is, for me, the neglected piece of this conversation is when you ask, should I fast my boas? The question I would ask is, did you boom feed them in the summer? And really, I think about boa food intake as food mass intake over the course of a year, and fasting your boa is one half of a boom bust feeding strategy with your boas. And if you're sitting here in December asking, should I fast my boa, and you didn't boom feed them in the summer, it means that they're going out without the calorie reserves that you'd want them to have, and what they would hopefully have if you think this is a natural way to survive, to persist through that lean season. And so I would tell you, if you did not put some extra condition on your animal with a boom feeding cycle in the summer, this is not the year to start with your fasting. I don't think that this boom bust cycle should start with a fast. But beyond that, boas can definitely handle extended periods of not feeding, especially subadults and adults. And it is true that weight management and not overloading their systems is very important for their health. And I'll tell you what I do personally is, I don't actually intentionally fast animals, meaning I don't want to take a sub-year boa on an extended period of non-feeding longer than like 2 weeks. I just don't love that idea. I definitely would not go more than a month without feeding a sub-year-old boa. Once you get into 2 years old, then like a month is not a problem. But I don't truly hard fast any of my animals. But what I do is a significant reduction in their calorie intake, both because I extend the intervals or between feeds, but more so because I taper down the size of the feeder. And so in sum, I get much less calorie intake in the winter. I like to say that 50% of my feeding events for the year happen in the warmest 3 or 4 months of the year, and that probably closer to 70-75% of the food mass that these animals get occurs during that warmest 4 months. So I don't fully fast any of my animals, but they do get a significant reduction in feeding over the winter. That means that I go out with a higher body mass on them starting in the fall, so that they can do that. I feed them pretty heavily in the summer, and then I taper it way back. The reasons I taper it back are because I do think the taper back is healthy for them, especially as they become more mature. I think that month-long breaks, 6-week-long breaks are good for them, and I'm feeding my adult BCCs at that like probably 6-week interval right now. But I also believe that especially on younger boas, like sub 2 or 3 years old, there is some psychological and metabolic momentum to feeding, meaning that more feeding begets robust growth in them in younger ages, which means that I don't really think it's a service to go more than like 10-14 days with feeding a sub-year-old boa, because I think what it does is it kind of puts them in this like meager ration, like idle growth mode, and I just don't like what I've seen out of boas that have been fed that way in their first year, compared to the boas that are fed in every 7 to 10 days something smaller. So not like bombing their gut every 7 to 10 days, but I keep my yearlings at every 7 to 10 days. That's what I do. Smaller in the winter. Like I was feeding these Guyana BCCs large mice over the summer because they were a year old, coming up on a year old, 10 to 12 months old. Now they're like 13, 14 months old, and they're getting like small mice, medium mice, but they're still getting it like every 7 to 10 days. Once they get past like 2 years, I like to go in the 2 to 3 week period. But it's also just variable about life. Like in the winter, I live in northern New England where it's very cold. If I'm gonna get a cold snap for a week, I'm not feeding them that week because the whole house is cold. And if I lose power or I have a heating failure, it's higher risk. So the reasons that I do feed lighter in the winter is because I think it is healthy. I think it is important for seasonality and breeding, but also there are practical reasons as well. So my animals do get more lightly fed in the winter, but it is not a true fast. If you are going to true fast, I wouldn't do it with like 1 to 2 year old boas. And if you do fast, you need to boom feed them in the summer, because if you're just going to only feed them every 3 weeks in the summer and then you fast them for 4 months, you're just going to end up with a underfed snake. So that's what I tell you. Take care. Bye-bye.